It was a cold and crisp night in the small, quiet town of Millersville. The sky was clear, and the stars were shining brightly. Mark had always been fascinated by the mysteries of the universe, spending countless hours staring at the night sky. Little did he know that one fateful night, his life would take an inexplicable and terrifying turn. Before starting this terrifying story, we request you to subscribe for more upcoming videos like this. Mark had decided to spend the night at his family's cabin, nestled deep in the woods, away from the hustle and bustle of city life. The cabin had no electricity, and the only source of light came from a small kerosene lamp. The flickering flame cast eerie shadows on the log walls, making the surroundings feel even more isolated. Around midnight, Mark was lying in his bed, unable to sleep. He had always been an insomniac, and the silence of the woods made his mind race. He heard strange sounds coming from the outside, rustling leaves, and an eerie, low humming noise that seemed to be getting closer. At first, he brushed it off as the wind, but as the noise grew louder, his unease turned into sheer panic. Mark slowly got out of bed, his heart pounding. He reached for the kerosene lamp, its faint glow illuminating the room. As he approached the window, he was stunned by what he saw. Hovering just above the tree line was an enormous metallic craft. It emitted a soft, pulsating light, and the entire forest seemed to be bathed in an otherworldly glow. Fear surged through Mark's body, and his hands trembled as he continued to watch the alien vessel. It made no sound, and its movements were unlike any aircraft he had ever seen. It hovered silently in the night sky, defying the laws of physics. Suddenly, a beam of light shot from the craft and bathed the cabin in an eerie, bluish glow. Mark could feel his body being pulled toward the window, as if some unseen force was drawing him out. He tried to resist, but he was powerless to fight it. The next thing he knew, he was outside, standing in the clearing. The moment Mark stepped into the clearing, he saw them. Tall, slender figures with grayish-blue skin, large, dark eyes, and elongated heads. They moved with an unnatural grace, their movements almost mechanical. The beings wore silver suits that clung to their bodies, and Mark couldn't help but feel a sense of overwhelming dread. His mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear as he was lifted into the air by an invisible force, floating towards the alien craft. The sensation was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The moment he was inside the vessel, the hatch closed silently behind him, and he was surrounded by the humming sound he had heard earlier. Mark found himself in a cold, sterile chamber that resembled a medical facility. He was immobilized, unable to move, and his heart raced as he realized that he was not alone. The tall, gray beings surrounded him, their large, dark eyes fixed on him. Panic surged through him, but he was powerless to escape their grasp. One of the beings approached him, and its long, bony fingers reached out, gently touching Mark's forehead. He felt a sharp pain, and his vision blurred. Memories flooded his mind, and he couldn't understand what was happening. It was as if they were probing his thoughts and memories, dissecting his very essence. Hours passed, or maybe it was just moments. Mark had lost all sense of time as the alien beings continued their examination. The pain in his head intensified, and he was racked with fear and confusion. He longed to be back in the safety of his cabin, away from this terrifying ordeal. Suddenly, the beings withdrew, and Mark was left gasping for breath, his body drenched in sweat. The alien vessel began to hum even louder, and Mark could feel the sensation of being lifted off the ground once again. He had no control over his own body, and it was a nauseating feeling. The next thing Mark knew, he was back in the clearing outside his cabin. The alien craft had disappeared, leaving him alone and disoriented. He stumbled back into the cabin, his mind reeling from the ordeal he had just experienced. As the days passed, Mark struggled to come to terms with what had happened to him. He had no proof of his abduction, and he feared that no one would believe his story. He couldn't sleep, haunted by the memories of those eerie, gray beings and their invasive probing. He decided to keep his experience a secret, but the trauma of that night continued to eat away at him. He became withdrawn, suffering from vivid nightmares and unexplained physical ailments. His friends and family noticed the change in him, but couldn't understand what was causing it. Desperate for answers, Mark began to research alien abductions and encounters. He discovered that he was not alone in his experience, and many others had gone through similar ordeals. He joined a support group for abductees, hoping to find solace and understanding among those who had faced the unimaginable. Over time, Mark found some comfort in sharing his story with others who had faced similar traumas. Together, they pieced together their experiences, attempting to understand the motives of these enigmatic beings. While the memories of that terrifying night would never leave him, Mark began to rebuild his life, determined to find a way to live with the unexplainable. As time went on, Mark's life was a constant battle between the memories of that eerie night and the reality of his everyday existence. The support group meetings became a source of solace for him, a place where he could openly discuss his experiences without fear of judgment. It was there that he met Sarah, a fellow abductee who had been grappling with her own traumatic memories. Sarah had a kind, empathetic demeanor, and her presence in the group brought a sense of comfort to everyone. She, too, had endured the probing and examination by the strange, gray beings. The two found a connection, understanding each other's pain in a way that no one else could. Mark and Sarah's friendship deepened, and they spent countless hours talking about their experiences. They both felt an unrelenting need to uncover the truth behind their abductions. They began to compile their stories and research, hoping to find patterns or clues that could shed light on the intentions of the mysterious aliens. Together, they reached out to experts in the field of ufology and alien encounters. Their journey led them to Dr. Elizabeth Turner, a renowned researcher who had spent decades studying extraterrestrial phenomena. Dr. Turner was intrigued by their stories and agreed to meet with them. In a small, dimly lit office, Mark and Sarah shared their accounts with Dr. Turner, who listened attentively, her brow furrowed in deep thought. She explained that alien abductions had been reported for decades, and while the details varied, there were common elements in many of the stories. Dr. Turner proposed a radical idea. She believed that the aliens, as terrifying as they may seem, were not necessarily malevolent. Instead, they might be conducting scientific experiments and research, much like humans study wildlife in the wild. She explained that the probing and examination that abductees experienced could be an attempt by the aliens to understand human physiology and psychology. Dr. Turner suggested that they might be conducting studies to learn more about our species, possibly in an effort to understand how to communicate with us or to solve their own mysteries. While this idea offered a new perspective on their experiences, Mark and Sarah were still haunted by the memories of their abductions. They couldn't shake the fear, the sense of powerlessness, and the invasive probing that had left them scared. Dr. Turner encouraged them to seek therapy, assuring them that it could help them process the trauma and move forward with their lives. Mark and Sarah were reluctant at first, but they soon realized that it was a necessary step in their healing process. As they began therapy, they met others who had experienced similar traumas. Sharing their stories with a professional who understood the psychological impact of such experiences brought them a sense of relief. Slowly but surely, the nightmares began to fade, and they found ways to cope with their fears. Mark and Sarah continued their research, driven by a newfound sense of purpose. They wanted to make their experiences known to the world, not as stories of terror, but as accounts of resilience and survival. They started a blog and a YouTube channel, sharing their stories and insights about alien encounters. Their content attracted a growing community of people who had faced similar ordeals, seeking support and answers. Mark and Sarah became advocates for those who had been abducted, creating a network of abductees who could share their stories without judgment. Over the years, the once isolated and traumatized Mark had transformed into a beacon of strength and understanding. His friendship with Sarah had grown into a deep and abiding love, a bond that helped them heal and face their shared past. They may never fully comprehend the motives of the enigmatic gray beings that had abducted them, but Mark and Sarah had found a way to turn their terrifying ordeal into a source of empowerment and connection with others who had faced the unexplainable. In the end, the story of their terrifying alien abduction became one of resilience, unity, and the unbreakable human spirit, proving that even in the face of the unknown, there is strength in the bonds of friendship and the quest for understanding. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the heart of the unexplained. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more intriguing stories of the paranormal and the mysterious. Until next time, stay curious and never stop exploring the unexplained.